Countdown for blast off. X minus 5, 4, 3, 2, X minus 1, fire. From the far horizons of the unknown come tales of new dimensions in time and space. These are stories of the future, adventures in which you'll live in a million, could be years, on 1,000 maybe worlds. The National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with Galaxy Science.
Warning. The following are thoughts and opinions that belong to 4chan and Reddit. They do not reflect the thoughts and opinions of the Atomic Shaman Sweat Lodge. This is for entertainment purposes only.
Can someone tell me what I saw? This happened a little over a month ago, but I keep thinking about it. I was working in the front yard at dusk, my husband was outside, our kids had just gone inside. I'm busy with my task off from the house about 30 feet when I see my husband, or what looks like him, walk over to the grass and stop at the edge so he's still on the sidewalk. He's staring blankly forward, in my direction, and starts talking in his tone of voice about something. I can only make out a few words and decide to let him finish before telling him I couldn't hear everything. When he stopped talking, he backed up and turned toward our door slowly but in a blur, then resumed a normal pace and entered the house. Later, when I asked him what he was talking about, he told me this interaction had never taken place. He never stood there and never said anything to me while I was out there. What happened? I need answers or something. So recently, or for years now, I have been hearing my family call me when I'm home alone or when everyone is asleep. I gotten used to it and seeing figures, but now I am seeing them more often and hearing people call out to me, and sometimes I get chills or I feel like someone is watching me. I also keep feeling something in my closet or in mostly the dark parts of my house. We keep it dark most of the times, by the way. I had no problem, until I got a bit older and I started feeling chills and like something is there. I don't know what else to do. This is my first time trying to get answers or something, cause I am starting to think I'm losing my mind. What should I do? I was woken up by my dog's non-stop barking in the middle of the night. I didn't pay much attention to the time when I got up, but I did assume it was around 6 a.m. I let my dogs out in the backyard, but they would still not stop barking. I yelled their names and they went quiet for a couple seconds. I hear what sounded like something stepping on branches or leaves and thought nothing of it at first. My dogs paid no attention to me yelling at them to come back in, they just kept going back and barking. I went back to my room to get my phone and saw it was 3:13 a.m. I wasn't spooked and just thought it was weird. I went back to open the sliding door and yelled again for my dogs to come in, but the same thing happened. A couple seconds of silence and I heard it again, some noises like steps this time. I went to tell my sister and she paid no attention because it was very early, so I went to my mom's room and it was locked. I didn't knock as to not wake her up since she goes to work around 5 a.m. I went back to the sliding doors and decided to knock on the glass to get my dog's attention, but yet again nothing. I turned on my flashlight and opened the door when my mom came out and I told her what happened. As soon as she yells their dog's name, they quickly came to the sliding doors and went quiet. That's when I told her to be quiet and listen. She heard the same thing I did. She quickly closed the door, put the dogs in and told me to never let the dogs go out at 3 a.m. even if they're non-stop barking like earlier. I went back to sleep and thought nothing about it. When I woke up I just felt my whole body ache and told my mom. She called my aunt who is from Mexico and told her to get me cleansed. I'm not sure what the situation was or if it was something paranormal or someone was outside, but should I be worried? There is something in my house, and there has been an escalation in activity after acknowledging it. For a while now I just chalked it to my bad short-term memory. I'm dyspraxic. Thing keep going missing, my keys, my computer mouse, my wallet, the fking silicone food brush. I will search high and low for these things, only for them to eventually reappear in an obvious spots that I already checked over multiple times. The past 2 days I've started just asking whoever took _ can you please give it back to me, and the object will reappear nearly immediately, again, somewhere where I already looked. When I first asked, yesterday night, I heard 2 footsteps immediately after my request. After hearing the footsteps I went downstairs to the living room, to look for the object that I was missing, and it felt like someone yanked my hair. It was quite aggressive and hurt a decent amount. I couldn't have caught it on something close by, I was stood out in the open. I then found my missing item, computer mouse, on the living room table. The hair yanking and footsteps has made me feel very uneasy, since both of these things only occurred after I acknowledged whatever the fuck is here in my house. I also heard pans banging a couple of times in the kitchen last night, a few hours after the hair yanking incident. Acknowledging whatever is here seems to have been what has led to these escalations. What type of spirit or entity do you think it in my house, and what course of action do you think I should take? I've debated calling a priest, because I do not want the physical aggression like the hair yanking to escalate, but I'm unsure. If I can deal with it myself, I'd rather do that. What happened with my partner? So at about 4 a.m. this morning, Eastern Standard Time, I woke up because my husband was standing at his side of the bed asking for help with something. I woke up and he was so visibly clear standing there. He has obsessive compulsive disorder and gets paranoid about locks etc. and gets me to check and reassure, so I assumed we were doing that. This was our convo. H, babe, I need help. Me, what with? H, I need you to come with me and help me. With what? What do you want help with? H, just come with me. It then occurred to me that my husband was actually asleep next to me. I literally screamed, jumped up and switched on my lamp. There was nothing there. No husband, nothing. He arose very quickly, panicking, asking what happened, and I asked him about 1,000 times if he needed help with something or if he asked me to help him, and he said no. I've been freaking out about this all day. Was it paranormal? I thought I was tired, but I felt wide awake when I was having a conversation with him, and I vividly remember it. Please help explain this to me. Every time I drive or walk past a graveyard, I pray for the souls of the people to ascend or cross over. If I have prayed for that graveyard before, I will nod my head in respect, but not one time have I not had a chill in my body. And it's not an ordinary chill, it's like my body becomes light. I hate the feeling. I see the deceased sometimes, only when I'm not seeking them, and I get a chill, but not the emptiness. What is it and what does it mean? The only time I had this void feeling was when I was 10 and the ghost girl lived in my house. It was a child and I thought I was schizophrenic, but then I realized that my sister saw her too, described the same exact way. She can't be buried in every graveyard I pray for. Someone help me understand. Okay, I surrender. Is this a haunting, and if so, what do I do? I've read a couple of posts here, and okay, I haven't experienced anything I'd call extreme, rather, subtle. In fact, I'm the guy who usually explains the stuff off as a natural occurrences, but I'm feeling a bit over my head. And where else do you go? A church as seen in the movies? Open up the yellow pages and look up the number for Ghostbusters. So to freaking Reddit I come. I'll just say, I live in the South, in a rental home built in 1987. Clearly been remodeled, but after living here for 2 years, you can tell its bones are older. I have an older teenaged daughter that loves horror movies, typical drama fan, etc., as well as a roommate, and as of the last year, a partner who has basically moved in. All three of them have discussed seeing weird things happen in our house. My daughter has, since moving into this house, complained that she has never felt alone anywhere in the house. She only recently has become with being here by herself. Now, I have to admit, this particular situation isn't the first unexplained situation regarding my kid. In a previous rental, about 10 years ago, I was in the living room and I heard her call for me from the bathroom, where she was taking a shower. Thinking she forgot a towel or something, I knocked on the door and entered. She asked me, "Dad, were you just in here?" To which I replied, "No kid, clearly I wasn't in here." I thought, what a ridiculous question, as my eyes looked to floor and saw two wet footprints, perfectly side by side, facing towards the sink and mirror, typical direction when you exit this shower. I asked the kid, "Yo, why did you get out of the shower?" To which she said, "Dad, I haven't gotten out of the shower since I got in." That's when I looked again and realized that these footprints, while clearly a woman's, were not the size of my child's feet. I got chills all over my body and without causing alarm, got my kid out of the shower. I pretty much wrote that off as a one-off experience. Could I have been seeing things, who knows, unexplainable, left it alone. My kid eventually heard me tell that story to a friend and is convinced it was a ghost. Moving on to as of late. So the kid is saying she's feeling things. The roommate has come down to my room at random hours asking if I was knocking on his door. Tyreek swears someone was. But who knows, could be his dog doing something on the floor causing a knocking sounds, wrote it off. My partner has been staying over for a few months and now he's convinced there's paranormal activity going on. For him, it started off as hearing footsteps upstairs when nobody is up there, to hearing other weird noises. But then he started mentioning seeing a shadow-type figure out of the corner of his eye. That's when I started paying more attention. Why? Because I admittedly have been seeing a crazy shadow figure out of the corner of eye pretty much the entire time I've lived here. I've just written it off as shadows, even when it's super dark out and the rooms are only lit by a consistent source of light, like floor lamp. I work from home and have the dog and my cat here with me while everyone is at work. I have pictures and video of the dog and cat staring into my empty bathroom as if something interesting is in there. I've witnessed the dog freak out for literally no reason, but these are animals, so easy to write off weird behavior. But combined with everything, I'm now seriously wondering if I'm dealing with something else entirely. So now I'm more engaged with these conversations within my household. I admitted the things I've experienced and we have agreed to move to a new home, not because of this, but let's just say if we were 50-50ths on moving, this pushed us in favor of moving just a little. But, since we have made that decision, things have gone from subtle to straight up freaking weird. My partner a couple of weeks ago was putting dishes away. He just emptied the silverware from the dishwasher and was going for the mugs. He grabbed a mug and when he looked up, the cupboard that houses the mugs was already open, though he swears he didn't open it. That spooked him pretty good. Then, a few days ago, he got into his car to go to work and as he put his car in reverse, he looked in his rear view mirror and saw a smallish shadow figure in his back seat. Said it scared the POO out of him. He described it, but it doesn't look anything like the shadow I've seen. Mine looks more like a shadow of Maui from Moana. Ridiculous, I know, but that's the best description I got. Then last night, we are in the kitchen making spaghetti together. He goes in the fridge to put the sour cream back in the door and shuts the door. I go in right behind him for some ketchup, also in the door, and when I open it, I'm not exaggerating even a little, I mean, I'm here on Reddit laying it out, but a small case of blueberries was literally thrown out of the refrigerator at me. This package has already been eaten from, so it wasn't full, but it was as if it was left opened and on a springboard. I'm not kidding. Just wild. A couple of hours later, my partner goes back into the kitchen to refill his water container and the cat goes out to get his drink before bed. My cat has just lifted his head from taking a drink when his move is pushed 6 to 8 inches towards him. He freaked out and jumped like 4 feet in the air, hair puffed all out like he just took a bolt from Zeus himself. I know this was long, and thank in advance for any advice. Somebody tell me what the freak am I dealing with in this house? And maybe more importantly, how the hell do I prevent it from coming with me to the new house? I know the many battles from the Civil War happened all around these parts, but dang, not really trying to deal with some paranormal crap from that era. There's a church on every corner in the state, but the whole partner thing, yeah, they don't much like my kind anyways. Here goes nothing. This keeps happening? I honestly don't believe in ghosts, but I really can't explain what's going on here. I've woken up to this happening multiple times now. For some context, the longboard is screwed into the wall pretty tightly at the top. I couldn't pass this off as wind considering I believe it would take high-powered wind to even make the board shake a little, and my window was closed as well as my door, plus it's literally lifting off the wall as if someone is holding it there, and to be quite frank, I'm terrified. What should I do? Just need to tell someone about this. I don't believe in this stuff. I still don't think I do, but I need to get what I saw off my chest, and I don't have anyone in my personal life I can tell. Last night I was putting my 1-year-old daughter to bed, rocking her in her room in the dark. The door to her room was opened by about half an inch, with a small amount of light coming in from rooms down the hall. From my peripheral vision I saw a change in the light, and looked at the crack in the doorway to see something blocking the light partway up that definitely wasn't there before. It was as though someone was standing about a foot or so away from the door looking in. I hadn't heard my wife come up the stairs, and was immediately on high alert. I leaned side to side to try and get a picture of how wide the object was and if maybe it was just a trick of the light. I pretty quickly determined it wasn't a mistake, and that it was about person width and between 5 feet 3 inches and 5 feet 6 inches tall. It was at this point that I did something that probably sounds pretty silly, but it was the only thing I could think to do. I tensed up, put my weight toward my front foot, and started to growl and bare my teeth like a chimp. The obstruction didn't move, but I was locked on it. My daughter picked up on how tense I was, and started to cry. As she did, I put her in her crib while keeping my eyes on the door, and watched as the object moved right before my eyes out of the way to the left. I quickly went for the door and swung it open, still all tensed up ready to fight, but there was nothing and nobody there. I picked the baby back up because she was still crying, and heard as my wife walked up the stairs to help put the baby to sleep. I didn't tell her because she is a big believer in the paranormal, and would have absolutely freaked out and probably would have taken the baby and stayed at her parents' house. She's had previous experiences of questionable veracity in our house that have made her nervous, but this might have put her over the edge. That same reason is why I still can't tell her about it, or her parents, since her mother is just as superstitious. But I needed to just get it off my chest since woke again. I don't believe in the paranormal, it was really fucking weird. And in before there's someone living in your house. There's not, it's a small townhouse, way too confined for anyone to hide anywhere. The attic entrance also has no ladder while the attic is windowless, so nobody is getting in and out of there. I am genuinely terrified. About 10 minutes ago I was asleep and I woke up and mattress creaked like someone had sat on it. It woke me up seconds before it had even happened. After that I opened my eyes and my heart dropped so rapidly and hard, and seconds after my vision went weird and my ears went blocked and I had this god-awful loud ringing sound in both of my ears. I have actually never been so scared in my life. Can someone educated in this kind of thing tell me if this could be paranormal in any way? Do you think that the death of Pope Francis is a sign that the stranglehold of Abrahamic religion is coming to an end? Could this be a sign of a renaissance for truth and spirituality, as people move away from Christianity? Will we see a new Enlightenment period? I pray that the next pope is black. I true Christ kook wouldn't care, right? All that matters is faith in Rabbi Yeshua. What? The next pope will almost certainly be Filipino. I think it's a sign they, repositioning themselves to brainwash normies with a decade of very profitable and thoroughly regrettable neo-fascism to salvage their positions as half-kings of their corporate neo-feudal states. Troons will be terrorists. Leftist postmodern analysis will be cool again. Is no one gonna mention that this is supposed to be the last pope before Judgment Day? Crossing my fingers that this shit finally ends. Every second has been suffering, please just end it already. Nigga, he was like 80. Popes die all the time, retard. I've read this next pope is gonna be the last one. I guess there's some issue about counting popes. Francis might have technically been number 111 since the prophesy. No, fuck off, Flip. My contacts in the fourth dimension confirm the next pope, African or Southeast Asian background, is the final one. Wotan Hitler strikes again. The great Judeo-Christian Hindu spiritual revolution is coming. Why do you think the symbol of the old church died just after meeting with the honorary Brahmin J.D. Vance? Holy schizo. The Pope wasn't a real Christian. His death does the world more good than bad. Non-Catholics are the fake Christians. I use sex magic to extend my life. Many practitioners of magic don't realize this, but all magic comes from demons. Whether or not you invoke them or knowingly make a deal, that's what's making it happen. Not all demons are fallen angels, but those that are can perform miracles. And they will. They will only do it, though, if it serves their purposes to ultimately drive people away from God. That's why sex magic is so powerful. Is there a better tool than sex to rewire someone's mind so that you can have them as clay in your hands? Demons are fully aware of this, and they reward sexual depravity much more generously than other rituals. The godlessness doesn't stop with the participants, it propagates outward through societies like a crack through a sheet of glass when it's rewarded. In my case, I wish I could stop. I should have died in October. I bought myself a few more years and my time will be up with the crossing of the Draconids in 2032. I just needed a few more years before I can go, and I want to try and undo as much of their work as I can in the meantime. I realize it's probably a fool's errand, especially here of all places. In the course of my practice I've talked with several of them, and one said something that made my hair stand on end. He told me I've made the whole of mankind my concubine. It really does feel like that sometimes. Maybe it's hopeless. On the other hand, for the trouble to write this, if I can reach even one of you and get you to think about walking on the right path, it will be worth it. Reject magic, as its machinations rely on a rejection of truth. Live righteously. God forgive me. OP, don't give up. As long as you have a single breath in your lungs, it's enough to proclaim Jesus is Lord. Saul watched Christians die and be persecuted, and was delivered by God. A lack of faith is to doubt God's power, and both are a mistake. God bless you. My demon, the Prince of Wisdom, tells me you're not to be trusted. Sorry you made pacts with the wrong sorts, amigo. All demons are bad and boundless to sin and the fall of mankind. Extermination of demons when? My demon also says this guy seems sketch. Can confirm, OP is suspect. The demon gives him a second chance, and this is his take. He's a vampire, and wishes he could stop. Mother Monster rejects him. OP, have you considered you might be wrong? That's a pretty complex, fully formed belief system you have there, one specifically created by a clergy that did not want common people doing magic. Clergy that knew for a fact all magic does not stem from these corrupt beings. In fact, the best magic is beyond their knowledge or control. They hate us cause they ain't us. I see I have indeed considered that I might be wrong. As with many other practitioners of magic, I even began my journey thinking that it was an ability that comes from the human mind, body, or soul. Something that could be trained like a muscle. But the Bible is quite clear on what it is. If I ever had any doubts, every day it only becomes more apparent that most magic practice either involves rejecting God's will or setting one on a path that leads them to thinking that His will is not worthy of consideration. The way the rituals are designed intentionally obfuscates the source of the power that actually executes the action, and even in very tame cases such as tarot, remote viewing or other forms of divination, the results can really only be achieved by an intelligence that is not bound within space or time. That means it's either God or angels, but you'd think that if these tools were of their creation that they would glorify His name rather than keep it so far outside of the Overton window that it isn't even considered. Only fallen angels fit the bill. Maybe somewhere out there even a devil may cry when he loses a loved one. I don't summon demons or work with them anymore either. I guess I've grown too much to need to rely on them. I still consider them as friends though. I won't be going around eating them or anything like that. It's possible to sustain oneself without using the emotions generated by humans. I fear I will drift apart from their species because I have no use for them anymore. A lot of magic comes from God anon. Like everything that exists, we tap into God's light with our power of creation to invoke whatever be it we wish. We are always either using our own energy or God's. Any demons evoked are of our own making, pagan deities and whatnot feast on human and fellow spirits' devotion and will. We have the power to elevate creatures into godhood as we are creatures made in God's image, having thusly the power of creation. If you derive your power from a pool rather than eternity itself, its holiness or the inverse rests on that of which the humans who brought it up to be had done so. You are the man anon, and power is derived from the existence and conduit of which we lay within, which is all part of God. The collective power of humanity is stronger than any spirit or creature which feeds and empowers itself on our fears or whims. The big catch is that the origin of all power is the absolute, and those creatures depend more on our power of its manipulation to survive than, but the Bible is quite clear on what it is. No, it's not. You can't find one verse that says what magic is. Tarot. Ruled by the angel HRU. Remote viewing. An inherent human ability. Other forms of divination. Presided over by other types of spirits. Angel magic is a core part of the Western tradition, but usurpers never talk about angel magic. Natural magic is a core part of the Western tradition, but usurpers never talk about natural magic. Planetary magic is a core part of the Western tradition, but usurpers never talk about planetary magic. Divine magic is a core part of the Western tradition, but usurpers never talk about divine magic either. For your purposes only a dichotomy will do, and so you promote, discuss, and believe in exclusively the two approaches that serve your master's purposes, infernal magic and be afraid of magic. Your threat is an obvious psyop to 1. Make Protestant evangelicalism appear to be the only valid reality tunnel, and 2. To make evil spirits appear more powerful than they are. We'd ever depend on them. Perhaps they're non-organic entities created by a sorcerer long ago to serve mankind, which is why they're bound to us. I find it silly that people would worship robot servants instead of getting into a more palpable practice like planetary high magic. I've made the whole of mankind my concubine. Demons, humans, and all other lower spirits, big or small, say edgy shit to try to get a reaction. I still will agree with you that swathes of humanity are inherently corrupted by demonic forces at this point. There are always choices while here, but Ichigo Ikifrin, life is a one-time opportunity if you look at it a certain way. Redemption and purification are possible. I would say seek out Shinto purification or get a demonic exorcism by a priest. You need help and to clean yourself up before you can expect to unlock the kingdom of heaven within you. Art Bell Area 51 call is true. If you don't know about this, basically some autistic guy called the Art Bell radio show back in the day, and he claimed that he was an employee at Area 51. He sounded very panicked and afraid and said that aliens are extra-dimensional beings and that they aren't what they claim to be. That the government and military know about them and won't protect us even though they can, and that they are coming in the future, now. It's interesting because this was when the government still denied Area 51 and the satellite cut out during the call. Whole show went down. Apparently the guy called back and said he was LARPing, but some debate whether it's the same guy. Now that we know aliens are interdimensional shapeshifter entities, aka demons, posing as a galactic federation of light and coming to Earth in 2027 to LARP as God's army with support from the satanic Israeli-owned USA Army. That call is very creepy. Everything checks out and connects perfectly. What do you think? He also said they infiltrated the government, which confirms my suspicion that the governments and others are astrally possessed by reptilians. Very interesting. It was real, the call, but he never mentioned anything happening in 2027. Something could happen in 2039 though. Phil Schneider claimed that there's a plan for an invasion of Earth in 2039, and aliens have shown signs that at some point, when it's profitable, they wish to invade us. The guy called back and said he was LARPing. Case closed. I heard the recording of him calling back. It doesn't sound like his voice. They just got an actor to pretend to be him on the phone / and in the original call he sounded serious and genuinely afraid. No. Because the show still got shut down as he was speaking. Art Bell couldn't have done it himself, so even if the guy was actually LARPing, he could have still said true things. They are coming 2027. That's what every whistleblower says now, and the astrology and biblical prophecy adds up perfectly. Which whistleblowers? The only whistleblower that mentions a date was Phil Schneider, and he said 2039. I'm not aware of anyone that said 2027. And the Bible doesn't seem to talk about this. I'd like to know which prophecy mentioned this. There's a prediction by the UFO / alternative / New Age etc. community literally every year that this is finally the year the aliens will come and save us. It never fucking happens. Whatever happens will be in tiny drips and drabs over many years, like how David Grusk told Congress about UFOs. But Edgar Cayce, while he got a lot of stuff right, was wrong about the pole shift, for example. We're way past that date. The Law of One said the harvest would come in like 2011. Past that, too. Maybe Edgar Cayce and Carl LaRue Eckert were being lied to. The difference is they were wrong. It's a lot to explain. But basically the pretend biblical apocalypse began when Trump won the election. He is the false Antichrist and rules for exactly 3, and then God's army descends from the skies. This puts the arrival of God's army in 2027. Except this isn't actually God's army. They are demon aliens posing as some galactic gods of peace. Google *** command. Chris Bledsoe and Stephen Greer both state that an alien Jesus is coming in 2027. Which just so happens to also be the age of Aquarius, which is when we abandon conventional religion and see huge things in relation to technology, humanitarianism, revolution, etc. Contrary to popular belief, the age of Aquarius is not an age of peace. Aquarius is a fierce ruler who seeks to usurp. Aquarius is Lucifer, the Antichrist. The age of Aquarius is the age of Ahriman, who according to Rudolf Steiner will incarnate physically. He will incarnate as Ashta Sharon in 2027. That whole story is suspicious. Art's whole studio was killed in a way that even his crew were baffled over. A week later someone calls into the studio claiming to be the same guy, saying he made it all up and to forget all about what he said, but it both didn't sound like the same guy and sounded like this guy was either out of it or under duress while he was talking. Yeah. I remember back on Above Top Secret in the early 2000s, shills were even claiming the OG caller wasn't frantic and crying, but laughing. Classic retard take that shills do to confuse people. Strong skis in here. I concur with your thoughts about the true nature of Idle Mouse. Check out Nathaniel Gillis if you haven't. He has reached that same conclusion and has a bunch of case studies he talks about. He's on a bunch of podcasts and whatnot. I forget who it was, but one whistleblower mentioned that 2025 was the date when stuff about aliens would start coming out. Art was close to Rance. Rance was a weirdo who, when his wives pissed him off, he started thinking they were reptilians. I think Art might have done the same. Quacks and charlatans with some occult knowledge. The call was shut down, but not because of the call itself. In my opinion, having ex-government employees leaking any kind of secret was not something feds wanted. The segment on premise alone was security issue, feds get wind, and shut it down thinking issue solved. Either that or some freak accident did happen, I don't know. I think the call was LARP though. If the feds didn't want eyes being leaked and the truth was being leaked, then it would make sense to leave it alone to make them look like all the other fucks. Like if they didn't want that call in specific to get out, then it'd make more sense just to leave it because it looked like the same LARP as everyone else. I miss Art. He called the show years later and admitted to taking to whole thing. Fuck's sake. I know about Ashta, I don't think it's real and this still doesn't add up. Art Bell mentioned 4chan before on the show, which was odd. Red Eye Dog Man late night at cars scaring me. Did say something? You hear? Bad medicine pack. Zoom change. Skin changer. Doesn't add up. Why? Ashta is 100% real by Tayway and inevitable. He is the final boss of humanity and we have to stop him. If a sci-fi novel was in the works, his radio segment would have been a water cooler between pages. For some, Art's studio was a room in his mobile home. You're mentally ill. You should seek help. Dear Op. After reading your poor excuse for an actual thread, I find myself left alone with several questions. 1. When is this supposed to happen? 2. Do you have a YouTube or other link where I can hear the call myself? 3. What is this dude claiming? 4. Your pic looks comfy, wished I could living so. 5. Why are you gay? With kind regards. Anonymous, the H3X0R. You're probably younger than 25 years old, bro. No fear, I got you. A room set aside dedicated to work/hobby can be called a studio, yes. Faking. Not taking. Yeah, literally all the decades worth of new age bullshit that's been gaining traction is for these demons. Research the UFO phenomenon and it all leads back to this. It was a LARP, but Area 51 employees probably know some deep shit. Was a message board back then, but I think it's been taken down. 2 years. Trust the plan. Whether you believe it or not, the search results for Ashta 2027 indicate something is going on, or at least people think something will happen. Ted Gunderson was right about Art. I think it's the same guy and it was a prank call, but some glowies or some shit caught word of it and it might have sounded like an actual leak on their end, which in its own way is fucking terrifying. But Art never did. Losing a connection to a satellite from your double-wide trailer is a bit different than an entire big radio network studio with a crew being killed. Aliens aren't mystical beings. The only thing supernatural about them is their technology. Trying to tie Ashta Sharon to some abduction narrative is silly. It kinda makes sense that this would get wrapped up in the lore though, since his second-in-command Master Sananda still has 1 billion plus people on the planet hoping he'll come back and abduct them in his previous form. Listen to some Ashta channelings sometime or read up on the history of encounters with him, he's entirely benevolent. This extended smear against his character and mission that's been running on this board for months now is a psyop of the most malicious kind. It's all me. He is the Antichrist and Space Jim Jones. I will kill him first chance I get. There are aliens which are essentially extra-dimensional beings, but they are also basically humans. Think if a human lived as a dark matter body rather than a baryonic chemical body. I don't think it's quite that simple, still trying to piece together what dark matter is from what they have told me. Last night I was in a dream, and I picked up a rock and used intent to transform it into a computer terminal. I asked it some questions about the land masses of the Earth, trying to see ancient Earth, but it was a bit difficult to channel the exact formation of the Earth hundreds of millions of years ago. Then I suggested to the terminal to create a laser projector so it could project images onto environment. It did so. I asked it how it was projecting that, and then it started getting more 3D holographic. It showed me a chemical reaction of copper iodide with uranium-238 in a beaker. I saw the reaction form, saw these tiny bits of energy swirling within the beaker as if they were uranium ions. I saw this cloudy blue precipitate. Then the computer started talking about how the Earth solar system was a binary solar system with Alpha Centauri. Then it brought up experiments at Area 51 about nuclear energy, antimatter, and dark matter. I thought it was about to reveal some deep secret about antimatter and dark matter, but very unfortunately I woke up at that moment. It was very interesting to be sure. I've been dreaming in these extra-dimensional worlds for over a decade. I see people from this reality there, even people in my immediate family, and they don't seem to know what's going on when they are there. I have been using it to seek out information, and I've been interacting with this extra-dimensional galactic humanity, as well as other entities. They really aren't out to get us, at least, not the ones I know. It's a very vast universe. Conscious intention, your mind and heart, direct what part of the interdimensional space you interact with. That art is a Como who killed his wife. Real reason 4chan got hacked cause this post. OMG, real hacker inside Area 51. Most important thread ever posted. Was here over few days ago. Genius freaks keep deleting thread in panic mode cause is so legit. Haxer man infosec. WTF, he did reply on any questions. He did return the next day, but posts were deleted very quickly, where he basically made a statement that we are living in a catastrophic alien disclosure arrival any day. This was the only reason the deep state Illuminati let Trump win the election. We are all going to move into gigantic motherships in a relocation rapture type of event, so it is over, sir. Good luck, safe. Yes, the alien will arrive any day now for sure, it is a normal process. But weird here, the alien beings at Area 51 that we hold are interdimensional beings. They see this place as a realm or game container simulation sandbox, but the alien we getting soon arrival are normal contact aliens. Process of evolution, a very complex deal to believe me. Buy must go return morning. Eastern safe. Original thread from 1 hour ago /poll/archive. Why were elongated skulls present in different civilizations far apart from each other? How disconnected were those civilizations, if at all? Were they elongated artificially or not? Is there a relation between them and the slightly elongated skulls of the Neanderthals? Answer what you know, ask what you don't. Phrenology discussion is also welcome. You need to make sure you're not blinded by confirmation bias. How many civilizations didn't depict or practice skull elongation? Is it really so common as to suggest a deeper pattern, or is it possible that it arose several times by random chance? Are there any remote viewers here that are also phrenologists? Anyone? For the same reason, elongated necks have been common in many civilizations. Cargo cult syndrome. Trying to copy a superior group of beings. Pre-flood magic was easier and the priests gave themselves big brains. Yes, people stretched their heads to be like kings. They have a huge brain. Crude mockery done later. Phrenology was debunked 2 centuries ago. It's not just dumb, it's super dumb. Glowy seating already, this should be a good thread. You are the glowy trying to push lies. Kyle Odom. Priest class of the Anunnaki. How can someone see skulls like OP's pickerel, which are regular Homo sapiens skulls, then find a crushed piece of a jawbone and claim it came from a proto-human species with a different monkey line of ancestry? Not that they are Anunnaki, they're hybrids. Some had reptilian/dragon DNA. They were created so that the Anunnaki could rule us by proxy. One of the distinguishing features of the Nephilim for the extra IQ points and psychic abilities. Of course you'd say that. You have the brainpan of a stagecoach tilter. To be fair, this is a good response from peak Simpsons era, but debunked it is. My head is stately and powerful, by the way. They are Nephilim, aka the ancestors of modern day Jews. Every Jew has a skull like this. There are natural foramen along the occipital midline not present in other humans. The mastoid process of the mandible is more than twice the size of a normal skull. The foramen magnum is a different shape and pushed backwards to accommodate the dome head. The orbits are huge and rounded. The cranial volume is more than 500 cubic centimeters larger than modern humans. These are not things one can achieve with cranial deformation. These beings genetically have these traits, which suggests they are categorically non-Homo sapien and hominid. Please should tay fug up. LMAO, get lost cuckold. I see you are mad. It won't help you, you are just a shitposter of low powers. Your head is small and rat-like. So it's a monkey skull. Scientists are dumb, they only believe what they get told and are too arrogant to consider other options. They are religious in that manner. It's probably a hybrid of sorts, or perhaps an unaccounted for hominid. I suspect they became the powers that be and domesticated us. Phrenology. All you new fagonons pay attention. This is the retarded go-to option when it comes to the subject. The Paracas skull's capacity are larger than normal humans, binding cannot increase cranial capacity. These were a subspecies, scientifically confirmed. Where is this from? 19th century phrenology was already considered retarded at the time because you cannot analyze personality from head bumps. However, that doesn't mean that physiognomy or craniology are retarded either, on the contrary, they're extremely useful. There was definitely a race of long-skulled people in the past, that we can't deny, but I don't think it was just Nephilims or alien hybrids, no, it was something else entirely. I think it was genetic engineering. The ancients found a way to rapidly alter certain characteristics and they exploited the hell out of it, and these long skulls are the result of that. How do you give birth to a child that has a very above average skull? Pretty interesting nonetheless. Were they smarter as a result of this? It looks like the brain has a lot more room. Google giant double teeth. Never bothered reading where it's from exactly, I just know it's a thing. They also apparently had 6 fingers. BTW, ever noticed how reptilian cats are? Trepanning is said to elevate a person's mood and make them feel young. I don't know what effect skull elongation had on people, maybe they think a little differently. These eggheads were maybe responsible for ancient knowledge and buildings like pyramid and megalith. Means a lot from someone posting this was LE debunked on /x/. Xiang Yu had a double pupil in one eye just like the mythical Emperor Shun and Duke Wen of Jin. He was thus seen as an extraordinary person because his unique double pupil was a mark of a king or sage in Chinese tradition. Xiang Yu was slightly taller than 8 Qi, or approximately 1.86 m, 6 feet 1 in, and possessed great physical strength as he could lift a ding. The classic of mountains and seas mentions a Xianyuan nation whose inhabitants have human faces, snake bodies, and tails twisting above their heads. Unk, a contemporary scholar of early Chinese mythology, noted that the appearance of these people is characteristic of gods and suggested that they may reflect the form of the Yellow Thearch himself. As he was looking at the Ho Yellow River, a tall man, with a white face and fish's body, came out and said, "I am the spirit of the Ho." He then called Yu, and said, Wan Ming, you shall regulate the waters. Having so spoken, he gave you a chart of the Ho, containing all about the regulating of the waters, and returned into the deep. And certainly the youth Cuculain Maxualdame was handsome as he came to show his form to the armies. You would think he had 3 distinct heads of hair, brown at the base, blood red in the middle, and a crown of golden yellow. This hair was settled strikingly into 3 coils on the cleft at the back of his head. Each long loose flowing strand hung down in shining splendor over his shoulders, deep gold and beautiful and fine as a thread of gold. 100 neat red gold curls shone darkly on his neck, and his head was covered with 100 crimson threads matted with gems. He had 4 dimples in each cheek, yellow, green, crimson, and blue, and 7 bright pupils, eye jewels, in each kingly eye. Each foot had 7 toes and each hand 7 fingers, the nails with the grip of a hawk's claw or a griffin's clench. Cuculain turned into a dragon serpent, like Chinese. The first warp spasm seized Cuculain, and made him into a monstrous thing, hideous and shapeless, unheard of. His shanks and his joints, every knuckle, and angle and organ from head to foot, shook like a tree in the flood or a reed in the stream. His body made a furious twist inside his skin, so that his feet and shins switched to the rear and his heels and calves switched to the front. On his head the temple sinews stretched to the nape of his neck, each mighty, immense. Measureless knob as big as the head of a month-old child, he sucked one eye so deep into his head that a wild crane couldn't probe it onto his cheek out of the depths of his skull, the other eye fell out along his cheek. His mouth weirdly distorted, his cheek peeled back from his jaws until the gullet appeared, his lungs and his liver flapped in his mouth and throat, his lower jaw struck the upper a lion-killing blow. And fiery flakes large as a ram's fleece reached his mouth from his throat. The hair of his head twisted like the tangle of a red thorn bush stuck in a gap, if a royal apple tree with all its kingly fruit were shaken above him. Scarce an apple would reach the ground, but each would be spiked on a bristle of his hair as it stood up on his scalp with rage. Yes. I literally gave you a picture from India. Put more effort in, you complete fucking retard. You'd have more power the bigger the head. Because of DNA analysis. Thank you for today's episode of Things That Never Happened. This guy is right and the bots in this thread just gloss over his answer. Basically the priest class handles the Benben stone / Stargate tech that allows the Anunnaki to come here. I've heard that the portal / pyramid devices are highly radioactive, which would explain the genetic changes exhibited in the priest class, as they would be the ones performing the ritual, operating the Stargate, to incarnate the gods here. So Galians, am I right? I'm looking forward to learning facts here from qualified archaeological experts. Archaeology doesn't have experts. It has storytellers. It's not a science. Do you think Stargate is real? It's a silly old television series. It's not based on actual historical events. I can't tell if you guys are enjoying this as a fantasy thing or if you seriously believe in it like it actually happened. But you seem to think there are robots commenting amongst real people too, so who's to say what nonsense you believe? Or your character here or whatever. I don't know what you people are doing, but either way you're working in fiction. Sticking to reality. When was the first historical mention of the Stargate system? That's nonsense. In reality, any mention of a Stargate system is fiction anyway. Do you mean how long have sci-fi writers theorized about such a hypothetical system? Who knows? It's not like portals to distant planets exist in reality. There were 2 types of Nephmuds, tall as physical - Ubermensch, or normal height but big brain mental, Ubermensch. Gender specific as well and makes sense. So long as they worked together they were perfect false demigods. It was debunked in the 1800s. There's a huge source of documentation. You must be fucking stupid. It's been debunked harder than anything. You just want people to post shit in your shit thread because you enjoy eating shit. Without shit in your mouth you are fucked. I call bullshit. Link some of that huge source of documentation. Should be easy, right, with so much of it? I suspect what we will really get is no response or a Down syndrome child tantrum. The Phrenological Delusion, 1882. The Brain and Its Functions, Pierre Flourens, 1842. Phrenology, The Fallacy of the Science of the Mind, F. W. H. Myers, 1901. So that's some early ones, and there are plenty of others. This was gone after hard and discredited quickly. For more up-to-date, Mark Twain, Dr. Oliver Wendell Holmes, and the Head Readers, Literature, Humor, and Faddish Phrenology hardcover, Stanley Finger, 2023. That said, you strike me as a man who can't read and doesn't want to, so just look at the wiki article on Phrenology or any of the small publications on research paper sites. Like I say, it's been debunked hard and there is simply no shortage of material. You got neither of those, but strangely enough that's what you are doing right now. You are also derailing. Discuss the topic and drop the shit-eating and posting. Anons, what's your take on this early Egyptian pharaoh? Bigger than the other people. Elongated skull. Egypt was the most advanced in the first dynasty and deteriorated from there. What's the story? That's a Nephilim that got wiped out in the cataclysm. Stargate is soft disclosure, you retarded cunt. Triangle dick. Definitely a depiction of a titan. They also have no sutures. Whoever birthed these things either died or had very wide pelvises. The mothers were a blood sacrifice. Since the brain is also responsible for stuff like hand-eye coordination and reflexes, I'm willing to bet they must be insane fucking fighters.